I'll have a peek. Yes. In that case, please rise for our graduates. Hello, welcome. Come on in. Yes.
Good.
Hello. Hi. Enjoy the fun. Okay, welcome everybody to the graduation of the Sociology, of the Master of Sociology of Culture, Media and the Arts. I must admit, this is my first time doing this, and I have not seen the slides in advance. So I know briefly what the program is going to be, and we should all be fine. I guess they're counting on my improvising skills. I will do my utmost best. One thing I do know is that I'm here to welcome you, which should be the opening slide. So we're good. Good afternoon, of course, to our graduates. It's great to see you here, to your family and friends, and to our fellow colleagues. So my name is Susanna Opré, and since last year I've become the coordinator of our research master. And really, it is my pleasure to welcome you here today. And I must say, I really admire today's cohort. And if the students know me a little bit, I will never say something I do not mean. Really, I admire you because it hasn't been easy. Not only did you succeed in completing a very challenging program, but you were also able to do so during tumultuous times. You persevered despite online classes, quarantine, and for some of you, even COVID infections. And please let that attest to both your academic, but also your life skills. Our research master, and this is just a short background information for the family and friends that you know actually what is it that your child or friend has accomplished, or your brother or your sister. So the research master really is the master where the best of our students in our department study. The admission criteria are strict, so it's hard to get in, but also the study load is high. It's a joint program between two faculties in Erasmus, so the Faculty of Social Sciences in the Erasmus School of Culture, History, Culture and Communication, and more specifically a collaboration between Sociology, Arts and Culture, and Media and Communication. It's an interdisciplinary program, also one of the things that makes it challenging, I would say. But it is so because we believe that social issues relating to arts, culture and the media are best understood using multiple lenses. In contrast to many other research masters in the fields, we train students not only in methods, but we also really stimulate them to engage with theory. It is hands-on, so students do a research traineeship, do empirical analysis in courses, and they write a research article as a piece de résistance. We also have a strong international focus. Not only is our student body highly international, so is our staffs. We cover research from various countries across the world, and also students go abroad in their second year. Granted, most of you went to Belgium, but still. The Research Master is a relatively small program, as you can see. So usually we have about 8 to 12 students per year. As said, only the best students are selected, and it takes a solid BA foundation and brain power, but also dedication and determination to complete this program. It is a tough program compared to our regular master programs. And to give you an example, in regular courses from the regular master, students read 2 or 3 articles per course per week. In Research Master, it's often 5 or 6. So it's really, the workload is much higher. And we not only expect our students to read the literature, but also to engage with it and critically reflect on it in class. So it really is quite a challenge. I must say that our program is successful in many ways. So we've existed since 2010, and since then more than 100 students have graduated, usually with high grades. Also, about half of our students get a PhD position, and not just in the Netherlands, but in spirit of our international profile, also abroad. In countries close to home, like Belgium, but also pretty much as far as you can get. I hope it doesn't give something away about our program, but we even have PhD students in New Zealand. Other graduates have become consultants, business analysts, or researchers at, for instance, one of our ministries. Many alumni have already finished PhDs and actually have become assistant professors as well. And I want to say, whatever path you may choose, I hope it will be bright and that it will be filled with prosperity and joy. Most of the students graduating today already found their first job in the labor market. We have 6 here today, and I must say we as lecturers are proud of all of you. And I know, of course, your friends and family, those who are here but also watching online, that they will be too. That being said, I also know that you already are sort of looking at what's lying in the corner and that you want to hold your diplomas. And so I suggest we start the ceremony. So it seems like this was already the start, but we continue actually with a speech from Mark, our esteemed colleague. And after that, we'll start handing out the diplomas. And there will be a short intermezzo in between being zero students' performance. For every student, there will be a brief speech, usually given by the supervisor, but in case of Mannes and Sanne, actually your supervisors have forwarded their speeches to me. So I will do the honors and deliver the words as best as I can. Yeah, that's it for now. The ceremony will take about 1 hour, maybe 1 hour, 15 minutes. Either way, will be done by 5:30, and by then you get to enjoy some drinks and really celebrate our students' accomplishments. So without further ado, I give the word to Mark.
Staat hij aan? Ja, it's on. All right. It feels a bit weird to be behind this table, but I will move around a little bit maybe. So, first of all, it's marvelous to see you all here, shining and glowing in your gowns and with your caps. It's really great. With the knowledge that you have produced excellent work and are ready to pursue a research career. A lot has happened since we first met each other. In some cases, 2 years ago, sometimes a bit shorter or a bit longer. There was a lot of theory, paradigms, grey papers, white papers, difficult papers, mind-blowing papers, critical papers, hardcore papers, stats, regressions, discourses, thematic analysis, mixed methods analysis, tired of analysis, analysis anxiety, traineeship anxiety, conference anxiety, thesis anxiety. A lot has passed, but it's all water under the bridge. You made it, you are here. Congratulations. Now, I was asked to give a speech to address you and talk about the past 2 years. Grasp it and summarize it. But I just did already in my first minute. So, what can be said more about your achievement? About the research master you took here at Erasmus University? Well, what would have Erasmus have said if he had been here? How would he look at the concept of a research master? Let's see if his life and ideas can speak to us. Let's make a comparison between the road he took and the one you are taking. To be sure, I don't want to put pressure on you, becoming the next Erasmus, having a university named after you, but just ask, what do we know of our predecessor? The man who, in a way, started it all. Who was Erasmus? He was the illegitimate child of a priest and the daughter of a physician. So coming from relatively good social class, but hindered by the sins of his father. Still, he was a smart kid from the start. Learned Latin as if it was doing the hula hoop, or in more contemporary terms, swiping your Tinder butt. But let's get one thing straight. Erasmus never did the Research Master. And that is not to say that doing the Research Master is useless, and also not that not doing the Research Master increases your chances to become a highly successful scholar. Actually, Erasmus' trajectory was unusual. In those days, many persons who started at university already started at the age of 14. Erasmus studied a lot since the age of 4. But he was unlucky. His parents died of the plague when he was young, and his guardians sent him and his brother to teach at a public school, when he was 16. No university for him. After that, he became a monk, because he had no money and he didn't know what he wanted in life. So that is one mistake of Erasmus that you didn't make. You didn't join the monastery. Good for you. He hated it there. He didn't like the food and the people. There was no beer because it was a Dutch monastery and not a Belgian one. Mind you, he was religious, but was not so impressed by his brothers. He wrote that the religious discipline in the monastery, and I'm quoting now, had fallen so low that in comparison with them, there was more sobriety and more innocence in a brothel. End of quote. So when did he finally start his university studies? Well, he went to Paris. The Erasmus University didn't exist yet. Rotterdam was not in the top 10 of the Lonely Planet. So this was his best option at the time. Did he like it? Well, standards were a bit different back then. He described the Collège de Montaigne in Paris as a cubicle with rotten plaster near stinking latrines, astonishingly savage floggings, and how many rotten eggs used to be eaten here, how much bad wine drunk. He was never officially registered and he did not finish. But he kept studying and writing himself. He mostly earned his money by tutoring. Yes, also in those days, a side activity was done while developing yourself as a scholar. Some of you have maybe already done that also, or maybe will be doing that shortly. Erasmus cared much about friendship. According to him, education should be based on the way friends communicate with other friends. Harmony is found in the way friends are able to debate among themselves. Now, isn't that just like the Research Master? Small group, many of you became friends, and discussion after discussion. What else can we compare? Of course, internationalization. Erasmus traveled a lot in his formative years, all over Europe. After Paris, he lived in England for a long time, but also visited many places in Europe. He had to be careful, however. On the continent, there were constantly wars going on. One notorious war was the German Peasants' War, or the Great Peasants' Revolt from 1524 to 1526. Dozens of poor peasants or farmers started a revolt because the local lords taxed them heavily and the land had often been taken away, so they could not hunt, fish or chop wood freely. The revolting peasants were defeated and mostly killed, but their survivors roamed the German land for years as robbers. Erasmus, who visited many German cities, sometimes traveled with groups of soldiers who could protect them. Again, the similarity with our times and your stay at the Research Master is easy to see. Also now, farmers are roaming the land, upset because of the brutal treatment they have to endure, setting fire to random objects and making travel on the highway a hazard. I assume you must have felt many times as scared as Erasmus traveling to the Low Countries, and no soldiers to be seen who could chaperone you. So, did Erasmus secure a PhD position, you might wonder? Well, actually not. But in 1506, age 40, he did get a doctorate in Turin, in Italy. This has been described by historian Paul Grandler as how to get a degree in 15 days. He was put forward by some referees. There was a brief oral examination, and then he was declared sufficient and fit to receive the degree, and he became Doctor of Theology. So my tip, visit Turin and ask if they still have this option. Finally, any more career advice for you? should you want to become a professor? Well, Erasmus never became a professor because he wanted to maintain his independence. He never took up the offers to become a bishop or a lifetime professor at a university. He wanted to remain autonomous, although he did accept gifts, allowances, and pensions from patrons. He just did not want to be dependent on one single pattern or institution. This gave him freedom to, for instance, write Folly's Praise, Lof der Zotheid, his most famous book, in which he ridiculed and criticized many groups in society who he considered hypocrites and self-righteous. Greedy monks, ignorant priests and scholars, lawyers, doctors, monarchs, even popes. And he doesn't take himself so seriously either. In the words of Folly, the fictitious female narrator of the book, the learned are greater fools than the fools they laugh at. Now, what can we learn from it? To be able to self-reflect, to not fall in the trap of feeling morally superior, to be less greedy for material success, more suspicious of hypocrisy, more tolerant of our enemies. In our times of growing polarization between extremist positions, varying from populism to wokeism, perhaps we can learn from Erasmus more than we thought. So is this Research Master worthy of its name giver? Have we learned anything from the man? Can we follow in his footsteps? I leave that up to you. Of course, we don't expect you to have a university named after you. But we are still constructing many towers and glass houses here on campus, so a building might be possible. I think the bottom line is that he was passionate about doing research, and I recognize that also in you. If you want to read more, my source was Erasmus of Rotterdam by William Barker, Reaction Books 2021. I wish you best of luck. Thanks for all the inspiring conversations, talks, and coffee break moments. And later on, let's raise a glass of bad wine, wine, and I will see you there.
Thank you, Mark. At this point, I want to say, during the drinks, there will also be a photo opportunity for you to take a professional picture with your diploma. But of course, as family and friends, if you see your loved one standing here in front of you with already their diploma in hand or standing next to their supervisor, feel free to take pictures, walk around if you need to, it's all okay. Then we're going to start with the first part and with the first student. I don't think I've ever called you Emmanuel, but please do come to the front so that you can hear your speech. Yes, we can walk towards the diplomas. You can sit down, you can stand up, whatever you prefer. Take your moment, yes. So I have some words from Isabel for you. And she writes, "Dear Mannes, I have spent quite some time in the last couple of days regretting that I wouldn't be able to be here, today to congratulate you in person. And in doing that, I realized that despite the close and intense work during the thesis process, we have barely seen each other in person. Could it be that the last time was in September 2020? According to my records, we were together in class only a couple of times in the research design seminar. Those were the times of COVID and hybrid classrooms, of course. And some people adapted to those circumstances better than others. Among those who managed better, I can certainly point to you, Mannes. I vividly remembered you in class, both on and offline, active and engaged, whatever the platform. Later, as a thesis supervisor, it was not surprising to hear how at ease you felt conducting largely online participant observation and in-depth interviews through Zoom while collecting really valuable data that way. But before the data, there was the idea. Studying issues of diversity and inclusion in the video games industry. A focus on games, you told me, was not new to you. Attention to race, gender, and inequality, I know from your work in research design, wasn't either. Combining the two issues almost seemed natural to you, adding precarity, given its centrality in the gaming industry as well. That is how you ended up participating and observing various events and interviewing game workers about important and many times sensitive issues. And at the time is where yet another and even a more extraordinary virtue of yours became really important. Your reflexivity to place yourself in relation to those that you study and your sensitivity to assess the ethical implications of your work. I vividly recall the very first supervision conversation we had and the importance you placed on doing it right. And by doing it right, I mean doing it respectfully. Relatively soon after that, you had developed a clear and well-developed ethical protocol, quickly approved by the Institutional Review Board. Together with your curiosity and capacity to connect with people, on or offline, to work independently, process feedback creatively, and express yourself so well, it is that sensitivity, Mannes, which I think positively defines the quality of your works and makes a difference. Congratulations on a very good thesis and on completing what, at least to me as a supervisor, seemed to be a very smooth and reflexive journey. All the best, and I'm sure exciting steps are to come. Isabel. And this is the moment, the thing you came for. Congratulations. And then next I would like to invite Anis to come forward. And of course, her supervisor as well.
Yes, it says Isabel, but it's me.
Oh.
Well, at least you're here, so that's good. Yes, I confirm my name isn't Isabel. I'm Amanda Brandilero, and I was Anaïs's supervisor. So, dear Anaïs, I'm very honoured to be here today and to have had the opportunity to work with you over the last year. You were a really engaged participant in my Creative Cities Research Workshop in Block 2 last year. You were always contributing very nuanced insights and delivering excellent assignments. So, of course, I was absolutely delighted when you chose my topic for your thesis and that you would be then making a contribution to my project. Your thesis was entitled Beyond Traditions, the adoption of circularity in French crafts. And in it, you focus on people who are craftspeople and makers who adopt circular practices. That means they reuse materials, they go and pick up rubbish to make something new with it. They're generally mindful of their impact on the environment and engage in ways of operating in a regenerative way rather than having a negative impact on the environment. In your thesis, you tackled a rather complicated field in the French sector. It is an interesting one because many professions are called crafts or artisanat in France. And so you really had to navigate a very complicated, I can see you, I'm getting to that point. You had to navigate a rather complicated territory. So plumbing, ceramics, there are lots of so-called artisans in France. Yet the sector is also very formalized and hierarchical. There are distinctions drawn between more functional and artistic crafts, between proficiency and mastery of skills. And as you note in your thesis, the French policy approach tends to focus more on preserving the more artistic and traditional crafts rather than stimulating innovation. So you rightly asked, what about people who are adopting these more innovative, environmentally friendly, let's say, practices? How are they considered? How are they navigating this highly hierarchical field? And how is their work acknowledged more widely in society? So your research provided really original insights into these questions. I think you made a very important contribution to understanding how pressing ecological considerations come to challenge more traditional ways of producing and consuming crafts. You did wonderful interviews with circular potters, furniture upcyclers, dress and jewelry makers, who in all occasions reuse materials and think of their work in a very ethical and environmentally conscious way. You developed very original insights into how their creative process work, and I think this is also something which I haven't read before, so I think it's really a unique insight of your work. For instance, how working with waste and rubbish makes them have to be very creative about the whole process of making and producing crafts. Your respondents also acknowledged how they felt, in a way, not very recognized for the value that they brought to the craft sector. For example, they saw customers react with skepticism about the quality of their products just because they were based on reused materials. So when maybe you might think this is a good thing that people are being very conscious of their environmental impact, some actually were hiding the fact that they were operating in a circular way. You always approached your research with contagious enthusiasm. It was contagious also on me, but also your respondents. You always displayed really amazing intellectual curiosity and an entrepreneurial spirit. And these qualities really shine through your thesis, so it's a really excellent read. You established wonderful relationships with your respondents, and their openness and trust in you, I think, is a testament to how you approach your data collection and how you also managed to make them feel very comfortable opening up to you. You were also really very thorough and professional in the way you handled your research. And at some point, this also meant you got a bit stuck between your wish to be very complete and precise and your need to be concise. So navigating the complexity of the French craft sector was quite a challenge. And I know you really wanted to do justice to this work. And in the end, you managed to do that in a very outstanding way. It was great to catch up with you last week and to hear about your new job teaching at the Breda's University of Applied Sciences in the Events Management Department. And it's great to see and hear that you're still in academia, and who knows, maybe a PhD is still on the cards. I think you need to digest your research masters first, but who knows. Let's continue this conversation. It's been a real pleasure supervising your thesis. It's been truly inspiring to see your research grow and take shape, to discuss your interviews, your insights and observations. And even now, months later, after handing your thesis in, it's great to hear that you have not lost your interest in crafts. I've enjoyed hearing about your trip to Aubusson in the summer and observations about how craftspeople in West France are different from the southeast. So it's great to hear that you caught the craft bug, let's say, and that you're still interested in this topic. I've really learned a lot from you, so I really thank you for it. And I think your work really deserves to be read by many more people, so I really hope that it will be published someday and that there will be more to come from you. So congratulations, Anaïs. I'm very proud of you. Voilà. So much. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Next up is Anna, apparently. Yeah.
I do know one.
Okay, there's a system to this, so on the next slide you'll see my name. So I'm Michael, and I supervised Anna. So Anna, it's my honor to stand here today and just say a few words right before you become a master officially. The first time we spoke was in January online, as was the custom back then. In fact, I should say it's nice to finally meet you in person, because somehow we managed to go through this entire thesis process by only meeting online. I hope it had to do with the circumstances and not with you trying to avoid me. Well, initially you were playing around with some other ideas for your thesis, but it was actually very clear that there was one thing that really grabbed you, and that was sustainability. This didn't come out of the blue. You had been living for some time in Ruvendal, a student housing community that is very much oriented towards promoting sustainable lifestyles. And you were very intrigued by how the students there make sense of sustainability and how they integrate it into their day-to-day practices. This is relevant, obviously, because if we are to get more people on board with sustainable consumption patterns, it makes a lot of sense trying to understand what is so special about young people who are committed to do this voluntarily. So basically, anything you would do there would be societally relevant, as a matter of speaking, of course. Still, you needed to focus the research question just a bit more. So you decided to focus on how meaning-making surrounding sustainability is affected by gender and nationality. Both are classical background variables in sociological research, and both have been found to affect attitudes and ideas in numerous domains, including climate change and notions of sustainability. And this is actually what makes it intriguing to find out which role they play among people who, in a sense, appear already united in their view on sustainability, as it would make more subtle differences in meaning-making easier to detect, obviously. So you conducted interviews with Dutch and Spanish students, because both were large communities in Ruvendal, but of course Southern and Northern Europeans differ quite a bit in their understanding of gender roles, but also certain consumption practices that are environmentally relevant, such as eating meat. Well, you found that the students you were studying did actually have to see one thing in common. They had this sense of privilege about them. They do think that many non-environmentally minded consumers are just victims of consumer society, or in any case, not in the ability to make more expensive, sustainable choices. So these students try to lead through example, in a sense, but there's also some sense of superiority running through their arguments. They do expect others to also follow that example. I think that you were touching on a part of the image of sustainable lifestyles that is, well, definitely not helping it to gain broader appeal. But there were some differences as well. Dutch students are primarily concerned with the environment and consider sustainability exclusively in those terms. By contrast, Spanish students had a much broader understanding of what sustainability entails. Most notably, they related to social justice much more. You also found out that even among these progressive students, gender does play a role. Being a climate activist is a girly thing, apparently. But also in their consumption practices, gender differences play out. Many students try to avoid eating meat, but for women this has to do with animal welfare, while for men it is much more often inspired by environmental concerns. These are subtleties that call for more attention, as they are of valuable importance when targeting efforts to promote sustainable consumption practices, of course. Throughout the process, I was impressed with your attitude. You have a strong idea of what you want to achieve, which even sometimes gave me the impression that you very respectfully decided not to follow my advice, which is great. Also, it is something of an understatement to say that you work very autonomously. Sometimes I would not really hear from you for, well, quite some time, up to the point where I would start to be concerned whether you were still on schedule. And then I would just check in with you, and I would immediately be reassured that you were making steady progress, which doesn't mean that the process went smoothly from start to finish, but it was very clear that you were not going to make that my problem. Even when we were approaching the deadline and I was starting to fear that you wouldn't be able to finish in time, you very decidedly said, yes, I know that I will need to work hard, but I will. And I can confirm today to anyone here who might still doubt it, you can work impressively hard and really push through. So Anna, it is with immense pleasure and really an honor that I can congratulate you today on this big achievement. I think your no-nonsense, hard-working attitude and your ability to translate true passion into a constructive contribution will bring you very far. So congratulations, Master of Science Niuta.
Yes. Then Yi Chang, I would like to invite you to move forward. We're going to do this. Yeah, or you are going to do this.
I think I shared the link with the organizer about oh yeah. Oh wow. Right now? Okay, like right now I'm like so nervous, so don't mind if my voice break or something. Okay, so okay, let's just get started. Just enjoy it as a short film. Just don't mind me. Just forget about me. Just. 三番故里，窗外雨滴打破细碎的玻璃，与你相遇是在一个单纯美好的世界，而在编织那天，你泪流夸张情节，足以向全世界讨回你付出的一切。你的故事存在一个需要密码的盒子，纪念时刻打开却会冒出一阵阵白烟，像是警告自己不能屈服向往从前。天变地变，我们的爱也变，而我在这座城市遗失了你，顺便遗失了自己，以为荒唐到底会有捷径，而我在这座城市失去了你，输给欲望高涨的自己，不是你过分的感情，而我爱你，而爱无法撑起想拥有的，想拥抱的，以为能通向领悟的结局。Awkward silence. 你的故事存在一个需要密码的盒子，纪念时刻打开却会冒出一阵阵白烟，像是警告自己不能屈服向往从前。天变地变，我们的爱也变，而我在这座城市遗失了你，顺便遗失了自己， 以为荒唐到底会有捷径，而我在这座城市失去了你，输给欲望高涨的自己，不是你过分的感情。
走吧。
而我爱你，而爱无法争气，想拥有的，想拥抱的，以为能通向领悟的结局。Yeah, and that's it. Thank you.
That was indeed really good. Thank you for that. I think this is the most inspiring performance I've ever seen at a graduation. And it's great to also see your talent. So thank you for your willingness to share it with us, because it is quite brave to go and stand here and sing, but you've really done a marvelous job. So thank you. Then we move on with the second part, because we still have, of course, 3 more graduates who are about to receive their diploma. And next up is Sanne Pieters. And again, I didn't look at the slides before I didn't receive them, but your supervisor was not Michael, but of course Daniel Trottier, who sadly couldn't be here today, but I'm happy that I can try and fill his shoes, because I have worked with Sanne myself as well. So you did, of course, your traineeship with me and also a student assistantship, which also resulted in a paper which is going to be submitted for publication. So it's nice that at least you get someone you have a personal connection to. And so I'm going to channel my inner Daniel, but of course I am not Daniel. But he says, we're gathered here this afternoon to recognize and celebrate Sanne's success. Or rather, you are gathered here and I'm regrettably not able to attend in person. With the words that follow, I wish to provide a brief and surely incomplete account of Sanne's excellence during her time at Erasmus. I first met Sanne when she took my research workshop on digital shaming 2 years ago. Her contributions to class reflected a conceptual nuance and contextual awareness that benefited everyone involved. When reading her final paper, I remember thinking, we could only be so fortunate if all ME theses, or just one of them, could be so clear and so convincing when we first received them. So imagine my surprise when Sanne reached out to ask if I would be willing to serve as her supervisor. While few academics, or anyone else for that matter, go out of their way for extra tasks, saying yes was an obvious choice. This isn't the moment to go over the content of her thesis, although I encourage you all to read her work when it's published in an international peer-reviewed journal. What I will say is that my high expectations were quickly succeeded. In the context of such an endeavor, Sanne is someone who is singularly brilliant in her analysis, all while being an excellent collaborator, processing and synthesizing conceptual and situated knowledge with an urgently critical lens. In our meetings, I was not only assured of her progress and eventual success, spoiler alert, she did really well, but I was also lucky enough to gain methodological and ethical insights into online research, as well as making sense of the massive sociological experiment that is Reddit. Shortly after her successful defense, I was approached by her potential PhD supervisor regarding a funded position in Leuven. I was asked to provide a reference and was ready to extol her her scholarly virtues. We arranged a phone conversation, but it wasn't meant to be. The conversation, that is. The professor in question cancelled because there was no need for me to advocate for Sanne. Her abilities were already evident. I must admit that that was a first for me. That comes from Daniel, but also from me as well. I can concur to that. That is really highly exceptional. It should be noted that years, literal years, went by without us ever meeting in person. As with many aspects in our professional life, the Zoom interface became a taken-for-granted feature in our collaboration. This actually was one of the least remarkable aspects of working with Sanne. She has a brilliant future on the horizon. This will involve a move back to Brussels after relocating to The Hague. I wish her lots of success in finding great living arrangement in Ixelles or perhaps Saint-Gilles, mentioning a good work-life balance and being in the same country as her partner. A privilege I have been so fortunate to experience after many journeys on the Intercity Express. Learning French may pose a challenge, but surely one shall master. Mais pour l'instant, je vous félicite. And we do have a special moment for you because you need to stand up and then I can decorate you some more. I've actually never done this before either.
No, I've never seen it. Is it a share?
Yes.
Wow. Yes, yeah. Where are you going? Oh my god.
So I would say do take a picture with that. And here's your...
You're already taking them.
Oh, very good. And congratulations. And then we move on to our next graduate, Yixang. And Pauke, that is correct. Please step forward as well.
Well, let me also share some brief thoughts that it's so great to be here and see people that did an internship, who I wrote a recommendation letter, who did a student assistantship. So it's great, and also to be, we feel a little bit part of your student community to some extent. Dear Zero. No, but whatever you want. I was just thinking about Mark's comment about naming our university after a student, and I think Zero University, we got a sneak preview how Zero University actually looks like. It has some graphs, it has music, it has everything that you need to know. So maybe Zero University would be the Zero School of Interdisciplinary Art. Dear Zero. We first met in our course Cultural Sociology, which is like the first course all students do to some extent, and a bit of a tough course. And it's like a rite of passage, so to speak, as well. And of course, as been referred to before, these were strange times. We had just this gap where we could do in-class teaching, and sometimes students were there, some there wasn't, and then I remember one student got infected, and then the other, oh my God, I also need to check, and this and that, and it was every week was like a new setup, basically, right? And you immediately struck me as a very talented student with a very clear topical focus, gaming, right? So some students come in and they're have no idea yet, and some students really know what they want. And I think you are one of those students who really know what they wanted. And many, if not all, examples you brought to the table, or need I say, desktop, were about gaming. Hence, to some extent, also my surprise when I heard I would be supervising your MA thesis, because I don't know anything about gaming. My last gaming experience was my Commodore Amiga days, playing the game, true story, Caveman Olympics, which included disciplines like woman throwing. So this was way back then, you know, as you can see, should have included the trigger warning nowadays. And then I understood basically that your thesis was partly about K-pop and League of Legends and fans and parasocial communication. And you had so many ideas. And of course it was also about gaming. It was a bit of a ride in terms of the process. And basically, I think we actually never met for a supervisory comp in real life, which is also a bit of a unique experience for myself. But you wrote a great proposal with a very interesting case, and this case was really central to your argument, where basically virtual game characteristics became a K-pop band. And this is an example I think only you can come up with. I can't imagine anybody else who has the creativity to combine these different sort of disciplines into, you know, a case to say something about, you know, how can fans connect with a basically virtual band, right? How does it work? And I think you did this really well. From the proposal onward, we had sparse conversations, and then I learned, yeah, I can't hand in my stuff today because I'm working on a research proposal for a PhD. And I was like, okay, that's a good idea. And then there was quite a long silence. I thought, this sometimes doesn't really end well if students don't keep in touch. But apparently, you wrote a proposal. Then you start very quickly pulling together all your efforts and writing the thesis, and you basically sort of resurfaced with a very, very strong thesis. And what I later on learned, you actually also got the PhD position. So you wrote an excellent thesis. And at the same time, basically writing a proposal to get funding for a PhD position, which I haven't seen many people accomplishing. And I think you're staying with us. You're staying with ESHCC in media and communication, which already has a very strong tradition on research on gaming. And I think with you, they would be even stronger. And I wish you the best of luck. And I think we'll hear a lot from you in this research on gaming and everything that comes with it. So I would like to congratulate you and wish you the best of luck. And I hope to cross paths with you in one of our research seminars to hear how you're doing with your research. So congratulations.
Yeah, so maybe we'll give you like a couple of, or a minute, I don't know how much time we need to, so that the next student has all the attention. We all are Thank you, Bye. Yes. So to ensure that Chen Chen gets all the attention she deserves as well, please indeed come forward, and Mark will give you a nice speech.
Yeah, I'm Mark. I'm not Daniel. So, dear Chen Chen, I am very happy to see you here today. It has been some years since you started the research master, because in between you were also away for a year doing other things. But you came back to write your thesis, and in a very decisive and high quality manner, you finished the program and deserved your gown. I really admire you how you manage to combine various activities. I know you as someone who is busy doing all kinds of things. When I was supervising your thesis, you were not just writing your thesis, but you were also involved with rewriting the article that you were working on, revision, and you just did... Oh! You kept on doing all these things. So at some point in the trajectory, you were so very busy, and that didn't always make it very easy. But you are a hard worker, and I think also a very efficient worker. Every time that we met and that you needed to hand something in, you were there and you just handed in another version of the thesis, and another good version, and another good version. It just kept on going. Plus, you have a very strong basis of knowledge built up over the years. If someone were to ask me, what is an exemplary student of cultural sociology? I wouldn't blink an eye and mention you. You're also very passionate about your research. The topic of international mobility of artists is a topic that you care for a lot. And then you have also mastered in terms of knowledge and research. From the start, you knew what you wanted. And that shows in your thesis. You uncovered various difficulties that artists from China who moved to Europe encounter. By doing so, you also illuminate how art markets work in the current day and age. On the one hand, it is a highly internationalized field in which artists talk the same language all over the world, making it possible to exhibit at galleries, museums and biennales around the globe and live in other countries. On the other hand, because of the importance of knowing people, networks, for building careers, the local context remains important. There is a tension between the two, obviously. And your thesis research contributes to the debate by focusing more on how these networks are constructed for specific groups of migrant artists. I think you did an excellent job in doing that. And it brings us many new insights for this group of artists. So yeah, now we're here. I want to congratulate you. At the moment, you are looking for a PhD position where with all the knowledge and skills that you have, I am sure you will succeed. Of course, it may be difficult to find exactly the topic you would want, but be patient and realize that all roads lead to Rome. There are many ways to achieve your goals, and I'm sure you will reach them. I want to congratulate you here today, and let's have a drink in a moment. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And yeah, so now it's time for the closing already. Time flies so fast. And I must say that not only goes for this ceremony, but actually also for the last 2 years we got to spend with you. As you as an audience have seen, like our students have various interests. Their theses were on various topics, but also in classes, like each of them brings their own standpoint to the table. And it really has been a joy getting to know all of you. And the sad thing about a research master program for us as teachers is that it's only 2 years. You have, of course, bright futures. For some of you, we get to be part of it because some of you are currently already working within the department. For the others, I do hope you stay in touch because we wish you well. We cherish you and we will miss you as well. And I hope you have enjoyed today's ceremony. I hope you will enjoy the drinks too, and that everyone will join in raising the glass to our former students' accomplishments. Thank you for your attendance. And feel free to run off to your family and friends.